the brain is not the whole story, right? If I'm correct, and that there's…
I… I generally think through my whole body, really.
And that is true,
That is why I can do 2 dozen things at the same time and don't feel any stress because I use every cell in my body.
I think we all agree that the brain is something important, right?
No question about that. There's no question about whether brain is important or not. But brain is important and it's functional only because of the connectivity to the rest of the body with the neurological system. Suppose you cut something in your spine, then the brain cannot function by itself and it's meaningless what it does. So that's why I said, I think through my body. This is why even if you're doing 2 dozen things at the same time, you don't have any level of stress because it is like, if you're just thinking just here, what it means is, you bought a car with 4 wheels, but you drive it on 1 wheel all the time. Obviously, one will wear out very quickly and there's too much stress. Every time people have to do something, simple things, if they have to decide what clothes to wear, where to go, what to do, they get so stressed on a daily basis because they're using just one dimension of their intelligence, not exercising other dimensions of their intelligence. Right now there is no experience of life. Largely you're just a bundle of thought, emotion, ideas, opinions and prejudices. Your psychological drama is being mistaken for life. You must see how people die. It's very important. If you watch people die, over 80% of the people on this planet, when the moment of death comes, there is no pain, there is not even fear, but you will see bewilderment on their face. Like this they go. Because it's like you went to the cinema, you bought the ticket, went to the cinema, you sat there, during the trailer itself you fell asleep. And when they turn on the lights after the movie, you woke up. What, it's already over? This is how most people are dying. This is the most unfortunate way to die. Because before you open your account, it's over. Your own thought and emotion kept you so busy, you thought this is life. But when the moment of death comes, suddenly you know the drama that you were turning on within you looked so real, but the moment lights are going off, then you know this is not it. Your psychological drama, we can all sit in the same place and each one of us can have something different going in our minds right now, yes or no? So obviously what's happening in your mind is your psychological reality, it's not existential. It has no existential basis. It is in this sense people are telling you be in the moment, because there is no basis to your psychological reality, you can make up whatever you want. Or in other words, your creation, your petty creation has become larger than the magnificent creation of the Creator. So spiritual process means you set this anomaly right. You understand your psychological reality is something that you're making up. I'm not saying you should not make it up, you can, but you must be able to switch it off when you don't want. The problem is it's just on 24 hours, so it looks like that is the reality. It is not the reality, you're just making it up. Yes or no? The made-up world has become larger than the real world. Just to correct this is spiritual process. You understand what is real and what is made up. This means you're spiritual. If you can identify what is existentially true and what is not true, you will navigate your way through life effortlessly, isn't it? If your mind, your body takes instructions from you, being peaceful and joyful is not even an issue. Is it an issue? If your body and mind is taking instructions from you, is it an issue? Is it even a consideration? Do you have to even bother about it? How to be peaceful, how to be joyful? There's no such thing. This is coming from a very unnatural situation because made-up world has become larger than the real world. What's happening on your phone has become bigger than the cosmos, isn't it? So spiritual process does not mean… is not prescribing how you should be whichever way you want. You like misery, do it, what's my problem? If you're enjoying misery, what is my problem? I will not tell you be joyful. You like to be miserable, I appreciate that. But if you had a choice, would you choose misery? No. Maybe once in a way you like to read a tragedy or watch a tragedy, that is somebody else suffering, not you, isn't it? You may want to watch a tragic movie or a drama, but you don't want a tragedy in your life, isn't it so? I trust your judgment on these things. So spiritual process means that you read the user's manual, you know exactly how this works. You keep it whichever way you want, that's up to you. You like misery once in a way, you like to… people like some bitter things, not just sweet things. You want to enjoy that, what is my issue? I have no issue. Enjoy it. But as long as you are choosing consciously, right now misery is happening compulsively, isn't it? It's not happening consciously, it is happening compulsively. Once you get into the cycle, there is no other way. It rules you. Being human means just this, that you can consciously decide what is the nature of your experience right now. That means being human. Being in a state of compulsive reaction means lack of evolution. Yes or no? This is the animal nature. They can't help it. They have to be in a compulsive state of reaction. That's the only way they can exist. That is their nature right now. Being human means everything that animals do, you also do. They eat, they sleep, you sleep, they reproduce, you reproduce, they die, you die. Only thing is, we can conduct the same things that they do compulsively, we can do it consciously. That's the big difference, isn't it? Yes or no? Yes. If you do not exercise that one thing, that you can conduct yourself consciously, it is a backward step in the evolutionary process. So spiritual process means a forward step in the evolutionary process. That means everything is conscious for you, nothing is unconscious. The very way you sit, stand, breathe, everything has become conscious for you. Once it's conscious, you will conduct it the way you want. Right now the only and only source of misery is life is not happening the way you think it should happen. Is there any other source? Huh? No. It's not happening the way you think it should happen. If your mind thinks the way you want, if your body functions the way you want, life is happening the way you want. That's spiritual process.
Refer to the yogic sciences. And so, how… because in science we always wanna verify and actually find ways to prove us wrong. So, I'm this hard-nosed scientist and trying to confront everything I think to understand.
No. Hard nose is not a good thing during the COVID time, huh? It's not a good thing to have a hard nose.
But so this, way of looking at nature and to make objective observations and then to verify and so to come up with theories of the mind that have explanatory value, that have predictive value. So I'm a bit surprised you call it in that way sciences, in as I maybe understand it's something you have experienced, which is for me as a scientist the next big challenge, to somehow reconnect with a form of spirituality. So how could we know that what you explained is correct, or could it be wrong, or could we find ways to test this?
We can. See, right now, if we… is it true that human beings, the moment they get identified with something, it is everything to them? Is that so?
Yes,
Whether it's nation, religion, race…
I follow you for the identity ego part.
They just took on an identity. No, not ego, it's just identity. I'm an Indian means I'm willing to live and die for this country, that's how it is. And that's what is expected also if you're part of a nation So, you know, identity determines how a person thinks, feels, everything. Just a piece of cloth just flies like this, people shed tears. It's a flag, you know. A national flag does this, people stand there, grown-up men shed tears. What is there in the cloth? There is nothing, it's just the identity that you have taken on which makes you feel like this. So entire human experience is determined by an identity that one takes. When one sleeps, there is no identity. When dreams, there is identity, but in sleep there is no identity, in death there is no identity. Well, you can always talk about your anesthesia and there is no identity. I'm not the person to talk about that. But I'm saying in conscious experience of life, one's identity is determining everything. Well, does it show up in your blood, does it show up in your chemical analysis? I don't know, that's for you guys to say. But it is a fact that people's way of thinking, feeling, working and how they live is determined by their identity. So is it scientific enough, I'm asking? When the whole world is demonstrating it. So the next thing is memory, the manas. Now, we were talking about many things. Stephen, do you remember how your great-great-great, 10 generations ago, how your great-grandfather looked like? Do you remember?
And somehow, yes, I know, I have the nose on my face.
Yeah, you've been listening, you're not remembering
Absolutely, and so we kind of understand that a little bit in terms of the genetics and as you say, it all comes down somehow to the language we use, and then it can become very confusing. But so, in terms of your comparison to my brain and my iPhone and the way it deals with data, I think there's something fundamentally different with how I…
No, it is a question of lack of complexity and sophistication when it comes to the iPhone. It is not as sophisticated and complex as your intellect. I did not use the word brain, I said your intellect.
The difference between the iPhone and the data processing and us having feelings, right? My iPhone is not…
No, that's not what I said. I said between your intellect, see this is the problem. Right now, English language is using the word mind in a very general term. Now if you go more specific, in this mind, there is intellect, there is identity, there is a huge volume of memory, and there is a dimension called chitta. Right now I don't want to call consciousness because the word consciousness needs some cleaning. It's kind of absorbed all kinds of stuff in the… in the medical lexicon. So we will leave that aside. These three together or these four together, you're calling it as mind. But if you look at the intellectual process alone, that and your iPhone are not fundamentally different, but very different in terms of sophistication and complexity. Very, very different, another world altogether.
So, I'm very excited about the brain. It's my favorite organ.
That one you have on the table or…
That one I have up there.
That's not on the table.
Because…
No, because that seems to have more grey matter, that's why I asked you.
That is maybe true, because this is the brain of a experienced meditator and I'm just an amateur. But these brains are important, of course, right? And there's other organs that I like, but without this one, it's less fun. So also when we talk about organ transplantation. And by the way, are you an organ donor?
I told you I gave away my brain long time ago. I also gave away my heart.
No, but seriously, it's because you have so many followers. So, you know, we redefine death, and we now have brain death criteria, and there's, well, lives that can be saved thanks to organ donation. So, are you okay to, after death, give your organs?
I'm not right now planning to die so soon, so let's see when it comes, huh? By the time I die, at least my brains, I would have used it up fully.
Stephen, I thought I will. Sorry, go ahead, Stephen.
No. So I think that the example of transplantation is of course interesting in a sense that it shows kind of the importance of the brain, right? Because you can replace nearly every organ, and we can now indeed even replace the heart, and it would still fundamentally not change the way you think and feel and perceive emotions. But of course, for the brain, it's different. So there is something special about this organ, but and there we shouldn't be too arrogant when it comes to the big question of consciousness and explaining thoughts and perception and emotions. We just have a terribly hard time to go from something material, that is this brain, and to this very first person subjective experience. So there, for you, I understand that the brain is not the whole story, right? If I'm correct, and that there's…
I generally think through my whole body, huh? Really.
And that is true.
That is why I can do 24 things at the same time and don't feel any stress, because I use every cell in my body.
Okay.
Because what you're referring to as intelligence, essentially, in most people's experience, I'm not somebody who's propounding this, but in most people's experience, a certain combination of memory and intelligence is what they're calling as mind, isn't it?
Yes, it's difficult because we're talking about definitions, but yes.
So, tell me, in every cell in your body, there's much more memory than it's there in your brain. And the number of complex functions that every cell in your body is functioning, you can never figure it out in your brain. The amount of chemical reactions that are happening across, not necessarily managed by your brain, it's happening of its own nature. So, when they're able to do so much, there is an intelligence. So in yoga, we don't say mind is here or there. We say there is a mental body. As there is a physical body, there is a mental body. There is a whole scape of memory and intelligence spread across the system. But now I believe, we've always given a lot of significance to this, but I understand now these days doctors are saying there is quite a bit of brain in the stomach. Am I right?
Yes.
What do they call this, Bala? What do they call that? I heard that…
The second brain, some call it, and so indeed we have a lot of these nerve cells in our gut. Yet if I have to choose between losing those or those nerve cells, I think I rather have the brain. And I think again we can transplant your gut and it wouldn't really fundamentally change who and what you are.
Sure about the transplantation.
Sorry?
I'm not so sure about the gut transplantation. It's not so widely done.
No, of course, but
I agree. Brain, there's no transplantation.
Anesthetize them. You can change the activity of that autonomous system, and the impact would be very different, right? Than whether you change the activity of those brain cells. So, I think we all agree that the brain is something important, right? And
No question about that. There's no question about whether brain is important or not. But brain is important and it's functional only because of the connectivity to the rest of the body with the neurological system. Suppose you cut something in your spine, then the brain cannot function by itself and it's meaningless what it does, only because it's connected. So how yoga sees brain is not as an organ per se, it is part of the neurological system. It's like one big knot where more is happening in one place than the rest of the places. But it doesn't mean it is not happening in the rest of the place. So that's why I said, I think through my body. This is why even if you're doing 24 things at the same time, you don't have any level of stress because it is like, if you're just thinking just here, what it means is, you bought a car with 4 wheels, but you drive it on one wheel all the time. Obviously, one will wear out very quickly and there's too much stress. Every time people have to do something, simple things, if they have to decide what clothes to wear, where to go, what to do, they get so stressed on a daily basis because they're using just one dimension of their intelligence, not exercising other dimensions of their intelligence.
And that you can train through yoga is…
Oh, definitely, yes.